All right, y'all. So we talked earlier this week about the Switch 2 after they had the big reveal, and we talked about the pricing structure and all that. Now everything has been completely thrown asunder. We don't know necessarily what's going to happen. Now, as of this moment, let's get the facts out of the way here. As of this moment, they're still talking a June 5th launch. And as of this moment, you can still go register with Nintendo, like we talked about the other day, where you can register for their pre-sales on their website. Like I said before, though, you do need to have a paid subscription to Nintendo Direct, and you need to have, Nintendo Online, and you need to have maintained that for 12 months, and you have to have had like 50 hours of gameplay. Most people watching this will have easily been able to achieve that. So, I don't see that as a huge hurdle. Now, we were initially on the 9th of this month, here in just about, 4 days, going to be getting a pre-order system, I guess, through, your major retailers, GameStops, Best Buys, things like that. And as it stands right now, that is on hold, at least at the moment. And we need to talk about this, because this could also affect the overall price of the Switch 2. Now, some people are already reeling from the price of the Switch 2, saying that, $450 is too much. I beg to disagree, personally, just on the grounds that Nintendo hardware tends to be really good compared to, other retailers. If I really compare, my Nintendo hardware versus any of my Xbox or any of my Sony hardware Gen 1, any of my Gen 1 stuff in Nintendo has never failed. Now, I know may have been pretty lucky in that, but most consoles from Nintendo are pretty well battle-tested. Go look at drop tests from the old PlayStation 2, Xbox, and GameCube systems. That's what I'm talking about. Nintendo systems tend to be really well designed, really well developed, and don't tend to have a huge number of problems. Now, early Switches had some slightly more brittle screens and things like that, but it was an early mobile system. I'm going to give it some leeway in that regard. Now, Joy-Con drift aside, good grief, please Nintendo fix Joy-Con drift. That is unacceptable, to an extreme degree. I'm not going to cut them any slack on that. That was such a huge misstep in the Switch's development. So yes, those of you screaming Joy-Con, I'm with you there. 100% with you there. That is an inexcusable problem that they should have had addressed from day one. But, not every Joy-Con's going to have it. I imagine it's, a pretty hard thing to kind of boil down. But hopefully by this point, at this level of development, we're 10 years past the Switch, these new Joy-Cons should not have that problem. But let's talk about that price point and what might happen. All right, so a little bit of history here. If we go back to 2017, March 2017, the original Nintendo Switch launched with an original base price of $299, $300, which is a really good value. Even at the time, that was a really rock solid value. Most consoles were a little bit more than that. I want to say, what was the price of a PlayStation around that time? I honestly have to look that up. So I'm a man of facts and figures, okay? So we want to talk about the PlayStation 4. The Pro system in 2016, which launched in 2016, was $399. So $100 more than a Nintendo Switch. So that's a really good base product to kind of compare this to, because the Switch is not on the same level of the PS4 graphically or even technologically. Even at the time of launch, it was a 2-year-old system. I say that because the technology was about 2 years old in 2017. It was based on a tablet infrastructure that was kind of developed in 2015. So it wasn't the most up-to-date thing, and the PlayStation 4 definitely at the time very much was. So being $100 lower, but still being a console and a handheld all-in-one, really put that $299 price tag kind of in perspective. Now, the Xbox One X at the time was $499. For some reason, you'd think it'd be the same price as the PlayStation 4. Who's buying an Xbox at that price? I don't know. Somebody is. But we're talking like the better part of a decade ago, 8 years ago. Now, with everything we know today, and given inflation and all that, a PlayStation, or I say a Nintendo Switch, would have been a modern equivalent of about $389. Now, that said and done, that's why initially when we talked about this, I said like a $400 price point would be absolutely perfect for the new Switch. I think that's great. In fact, if you go to buy a Switch OLED right now, those are about $349, and that's actually pretty darn good. And I know that a lot of people have bought the OLED systems, and of course there's a lot of really collectible ones out there and all that. By the way, if you're like me and you're a collector, after the Switch 2 goes up for sale, I know people right now talking, I'm not going to buy one, I'm not going to buy one, I'm not going to buy one. After the holiday season, and these are really, really, really hot items, everybody's going to be buying them like crazy. So probably into 2026, even maybe 2027 is a great time to probably go buy some of those limited edition Switches at slightly decreased values. Those consoles don't stay decreased for very long. So if you're looking to pick one of those up, just my opinion, that's a great time to do so. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be hunting some of the rare Switches that I want for my collection at that particular point in time. But nevertheless, getting back into the Switch 2. So $450 for Switch 2 is a lot of money. I will not disagree with that. I thought, personally, $400 was a great price point. And the $500 bundle is a little bit better because you are getting, a game with it, and you're getting a number of things. But let's kind of put some stuff in perspective. The Switch 2 is going to have not full backwards compatibility, but enough backwards compatibility to kind of justify like a day one purchase. Like, you're going to be able to play it day one. You're going to be able to migrate a lot of your stuff over day one. We will find out soon how that's going to affect Pokemon Home. I assume Home is going to be updated. By the way, I know we're predominantly a Pokemon channel. Apparently, there's going to be a completely free upgrade for Scarlet and Violet going into the Switch 2, which I think is awesome. I've talked ad nauseum about how I feel like the Switch Pro hardware that was leaked so long ago that never came to fruition was likely what that game was kind of developed on, which is why it had so many performance issues on the base Switch. So I do kind of feel like when the Switch 2 goes live, and all that comes over, you're going to be able to play Scarlet and Violet better than ever on that system. It's going to be a dream come true over there. So that's really cool. So my Pokemon players, you guys are basically day one going to get a huge benefit. How will Home interact with that? I don't know. We'll have to see. We're going to have to play that all by ear. But let's talk about this delay, what this means. I am going to assume at this point that the pre-order for all the big retailers is going to roll out at the same time as Nintendo. I would assume they're going to be rolled back at least a month, especially if the sale date isn't changing. Now, what is the price going to do? Well, gosh, that is such a huge question mark. I'm hoping the part of me that is optimistic. There's not a lot of part of me that are optimistic. The optimistic part of me wants to say Nintendo might eat those tariffs and might, for those my people in the United States, yes, we do have tariffs on Japan, and it's just ridiculous. But I would hope that Nintendo can eat those costs and then import those Switches and get those into the hands of players. Will they do that? Will things play out like that? It's hard to tell. But you also got to consider all the hardware and everything that's involved in this, the manufacturing, how many materials they're getting from us, how all that is happening. And there's a lot of exchanging of hands. Like, it's not just the device itself. It's the internals of the device, even down to the airplanes that the device is air freighted on to get over here. All of that is a huge, huge factor. Even the vehicles, they get those devices from, the airports, from the shipping facilities over to, the retailers. All of that has to be taken into perspective. So, it's tough, guys. So we're not a politics channel, but I am a person of facts and figures, as I said before. So right now, we are talking an overall like 24% give or take tariff on this product. So I hate to say it, but most of you guys like me that are looking at getting a Switch for about $450 can probably, man, 24% of that is a big chunk. I hope you're sitting down. I legitimately hope you're sitting down right now, because if you have to eat a 25% increase on your Nintendo Switch 2, you're talking a sum total for the $450, not even the bundled unit, the $450 unit, you're talking a sum total of over $560. Yeah. And it gets even worse, obviously, if you're talking the bundles and you're talking peripherals and things like that. And that's not even included in all the other stuff that's possibly calculated in there. You know, these things could skyrocket as high as $600 on the market. We're not even talking when you get to like scalpers and whatnot that are going to be, you know, swiping these up like left, right, and center. I honestly think this is a bad investment for scalpers. Like, I say that. Dare I give them an investment advice? I don't think anybody's buying a Switch at these prices. I think the Switch is going to be incredibly unpopular until these tariffs are removed. So, it's a tough spot to be as a gamer because I really do want a Switch 2. And I genuinely hope that we're able to come to some kind of an agreement and all this stuff. But, yeah, we as gamers lose completely. The Switch 2 is going to be, if calculations are correct, and the Switch 2 is well over $550 to almost $600, that's going to make or break a lot of people's decisions. Now, I do feel like a lot of people are still going to be clamoring for this come the holiday season. I think it's still going to be nigh impossible to locate between, you know, like October to December. And that is going to increase some hype, and that's going to have some speculators out there and all that. But that's the usual holiday stuff. I'm not counting that. I think once the holiday is over, these things are going to be hanging on the shelves for years. Japan has already said that they're going to lose some money this year. They're expecting a 0.6% decrease in overall GDP just from this alone. It's cumbersome, guys. It is cumbersome. I'm gonna see. So we're gonna have to see what happens here. I'm once again, we're not a politics channel. We are a gaming channel, but it's concerning. It genuinely is very disconcerting. A lot of people were excited about this, and I think a lot of the hype has subsided now. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, as always. And as soon as we get more information, we'll be back for more. But this is deeply concerning.